folks. Sorry we're running about 15 minutes late, but to coin a phrase, I blame the previous administration. So welcome to Exploration Lab 2, where we're going to be hearing from Matt Newcombe. Is that right? Pronunciation? And Damien, I believe, over there, Mansell. And I guess you're going to be talking about what goes on in this room that we were ushered through this morning going, we'll tell you all about it later. So, no further ado.
Fantastic, welcome. Well, we are going to tell you all about it, but actually we're going to get you to do all the work this afternoon, so it won't be a formal sit down and listen session. This is hopefully going to be about an hour of interaction, doing the exercises that we would work with our academics to deliver to our students. So we have a table that you should all be round. We've got 10 of them in this room. It's an exploration lab, so rules of engagement that you would normally find in a teaching space don't normally work in here. And one of the things you're going to have to think about this afternoon is actually how you change the way you teach and how the way you change the management of this type of space, because those rules don't really work. Academics want to do things that they can't do in teaching spaces. They want to use technology in a very different way, and students want to do absolutely anything under the sun. So have a think about that. So we've left tables on. We've got a couple of things on there for you to have a play with. Please don't go into Internet Explorer. That's the one thing. We've got some exercise in there set up already. So on your tables, you've got Google Earth, you've got a jigsaw puzzle, you've got paint. And for about the first 10 minutes, have a play. Get hands-on. Stand up at the tables. Try not sitting down. You can adjust the height of the tables. You can have a play. There's a stylus on there. Explore and find out what you can do and think about the challenges that you've got ahead.
Is there any chance I could swap it for...
Yeah, sure, yeah, no worries. I'll just load you off of this so the tables...
Doesn't come up rather than...
Yeah, that's fine, I'll do it.
That's good.
And it was on there, it was just on the desktop, I just dumped it on there for you.
That's great, thank you. I'll just get it off an email, yeah, that's great. Yes, computer with Gil Sands loaded on it.
So one of the things... Oh, it's gone quiet. Look at that. Fantastic. You can carry on playing. I was going to tell you, one of the things that you'll notice around the room now is we've put the tables up on the screens, and each of you got a coloured table denoted by the band on your table. So this is the orange table, and we've got the orange screen over here. So around the room, you can now start to see how we can share what's going on individual tables with a group, and we can change that and bring individual table up around the room. So if you want to have a look at what others are doing, you can start to see how other tables are starting to work.
How's it going? No, not at all. I'm the next 45 minutes gone.
You need to grab that big bit.
Yeah.
If you grab the big bit,
So yeah.
and then take the right
It's a talk on reactive students and wonderful world that is trying to get people to do well. Yeah, I mean it's a bit talky. I think you've got a bit more time. Because it's running late.
quite sensitive with it.
You've been involved with the conference.
I'm just doing this for the maps on it's quite good. We'll see all these guys making it. Some show physical landscape posts. I thought try and make it a bit more sociable for these guys. So we've got the list of attendees on there. We're not going to do anything navigating.
Okay, this one here goes below that one.
Okay. So we've had about 10 minutes of playing on your tables now, and what did you think about how you work differently using this type of technology? Blame the equipment. Okay, blame the equipment if it doesn't work. Yeah, loads of talking. This room is about noise. It's about students coming in and interacting, standing up at the table, working in groups, developing group work, teamwork, understanding how they have to do that. We can set challenges in this room that make students work together. And actually making them work together is really important because actually the way they work changes. So we were just telling everyone on the blue table just now about if you have someone who's very dominant, they'll be the person who's using the touch interface. They'll be the person taking over those activities. And we can manage that by moving them. So if Simon was over here and he's taking charge of this group and we actually thought the group on the black table needs some help, we can move Simon and he can go over to the black table and we can change the dynamics very, very quickly. The room also is designed really not to be used with chairs. We brought chairs in today because I know you're in here for another session, but ideally we want you up and we want you in the room, walking around, talking, standing, challenging, moving the heights of the table, and really it's a very different type of experience to a normal teaching space. So we've got another exercise now we'd like you to do. We've all had a play. We've got, has anyone completed the jigsaw puzzle? Not bad on the white table. Where's the white table? There we go. So we could, if we want to, Rob, do you want to bring the white table up? So, one of the things we can do is if we say, right, the white table have done a fantastic job, we'd like them now to present how they've done that to the group, and we can bring that white table up on everyone's screen, and we can now hand over control to them. So I don't know whether you want to just describe how you've done this.
Are we on all of the screens? Yeah. So we started off by actually having a browser that didn't work. And then we started again. So we learned from our mistakes. We realised that the control one didn't help us wherever it's gone, so that disappeared. So that was quite nice. And then as you've been talking, we've been trying to finish it so we look more productive. So but actually, yeah, we did work together. I think the problem we had was, I think initially, I think the gentleman with the beard can tell me that initially we had a problem with the multi-touch. So when more than one person was touching it, it went all over the place, but after that it worked fine.
Good. So that's an example of how we'd use the room, and we'd actually set challenges, we could get tasks, we can get group work coming in, we can get presentation from individual students coming back and actually presenting what it is they've done and how they've done it. We have another exercise for you now, which is a collaborative exercise across all the tables. And Rob, do you want to come and introduce this? So this will now give you an example of, instead of working individually on your table, you're going to be working with everyone on every other table, across the tables, to do a single task.
Hello. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should have a Internet Explorer app just on there. If you click onto that one, it should bring you up another window. And this is Padlet, which is an online collaborative tool, which works really well within this environment. It works in real time, so basically if you were to tap anywhere on the screen, double, it will give you a small box to open, and what we'd just like you to spend your next couple of minutes doing is just writing down your thoughts on the tables, on the learning spaces that you've seen around Exeter, and just give us your thoughts and comments. If you look at the bottom, you can import links to anything that you think it might relate to, or any videos you like, and yep, we will just have a look. And if you have got your ArcGIS up, if you look along the bottom, there should be another one open. If not, I will come around and open it up for you.
I'm trying to get all tables. I can't remember.
Thank you.
There you go. Padlet's cool. Use it for our meeting minutes and stuff. Which girls? Padlet.
No, they don't know.
I'm gonna write how much of the real. Do you use these in teaching?
Yeah, fair bit.
Do you use them now? Do Do you use them already?
Oh yeah, I've probably used them in at least 3 times a term in different modules.
It's easy to get booked in.
It's not overly used, so
That's not ours.
it's a bit of a hassle though. Like this, I'd say this is definitely too many people in here. I wouldn't use more than 50 people in here. Sometimes you have to double teach, but I think it's worth it. For when you get students engaged in learning and asking questions.
So that's what this is.
They normally work okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't use them if they didn't work
Yeah.
well.
It's a bit of a shame, in my opinion, that it's not touchscreen. It's a bit lazy. It's just not quite as responsive as normally.
It's much better now they've got Windows 8. It's made a big difference. But yeah, it's the little things that just having something leaning over the edge of the table or something can make such a big difference to the usability of the table. I need to...
Do you want one in Doug?
No, it's from Scotland.
We need to make sure we read the instructions.
Oh, absolutely. We haven't given them out yet.
We haven't given them out yet, because otherwise they'd have been done.
We should set it as a challenge, really. I might talk them through. I'll introduce them as a just say what we're doing. But yeah, it's starting to now.
It's critiquing every visual potential in place.
Okay, we've got lots of stuff coming up on the wall now. So I think we've got a couple of questions on there which people have asked. So yes, this room is covered by Wi-Fi, so students can come in here and they can use all of their devices in the teaching, in the lecture that they're doing. They can bring mobiles in, we encourage them to bring laptops. We'll quite often find groups of students sitting around the tables working outside a formal teaching space, and they'll have their laptops out and they're in here doing their group work on their laptops, but they're sharing that content onto the table so they can all start to see it. Which is sort of what we've asked you to do now. Using some online free collaborative tools, you can actually start to get groups working across the room. So we've linked 10 tables together. We've got probably 60-ish, maybe a few more people in here, and you're all collaborating. So as a teaching space, it becomes quite a powerful room for online collaboration and cross-group collaboration. Someone else asked, let's go and have a quick look, how many academics actually use this space. So we have academics from every discipline across the university now teaching in this space. Everyone does something very different. We have academics from engineering doing process development modelling using a piece of software, very specialist piece of software, and they've changed the way that they teach. So those students would normally sit in a computer cluster looking at their own computer. They'd have the academic at the front of the room, and every student would follow a set of instructions. And they would model a production line. And that production line is modelled and they go away and they probably forget it. And we've changed the way that teaching works. And we can bring the students into this room around a table, and we've moved from individual student learning to group work exercises where the challenge is as a table they have to work as a team to undertake that modelling. And we can start to share that through the monitors in here. We can show different groups, we can show different tables, we can ask different questions, and we can see that happening in real time. At the University of Exeter, we also have a student awards programme for teaching across the university. And the award winner this year for the most innovative teaching practice was an academic from our medical school who has taught in this room using something called the visual understanding environment. It's a type of mind mapping with their students. And they've been able to develop problem-based learning exercises in medicine using the tables to get collaboration. So we've got huge different types of teaching. If you want to know more, Rob knows all of the academics, he knows all the exercises, he can tell you in a lot more detail about what goes on in here, but we can put you in contact with academics across the spectrum of disciplines if you wanted to find out more. So what we thought we'd do now is you've had a play on the tables, you understand how they work, you understand the technology, you've adjusted them, you've played, you got there. We thought that it would be quite nice for you to actually become students for the afternoon. So we've invited Damien, who's one of our academics in geography, to actually come and now run a small part of one of his teaching sessions with you, so you can actually really understand how academics can use the tables and how we can develop teaching innovatively using them. So I'll hand over to Damien and we'll talk you through the exercise, and we're here to help if you get stuck.
Hi folks, so as Matt said, I'm a lecturer in physical geography. I use this space a lot with small group teaching and collaboration exercises. So I've designed a session for you guys to try in the next 10-15 minutes, which is a mapping exercise. So in your small groups, you're going to go through, have a look at the map which I've set up for you. First of all, you'll identify yourselves to the groups, show where you're from, where your location is, and then there are a couple of tasks for you to do. I've written down some instructions, so you should be able to go through those. The task really is it's a navigation task. Once you've identified yourself, you need to find Jill Snelling, obviously in Exeter University, and work out the best route to visit everybody on your table around the UK. Sorry for the overseas attendees, but this is a UK-based exercise. So around your table, find the most efficient route if you're going to go and visit everyone, every institution on your table, and then return back to Exeter. And so to do that with a map might sound like a bit of a challenge. Well, we can use the power of geographic information systems to actually come up with sensible solutions for you. And this is a really easy exercise if you follow the instructions. Okay? So if you get stuck, just have another read of the paper and go back, jump back. So let's go for it and make a start. You should have the instructions and you should have the map in front of you. So the map is on the Internet Explorer tab. Schoms map. You should see it there with all the big orange blobs. That is it. You should have the instructions for you to follow. Oh, hang on.
There's fingers everywhere like our room.
He's coming round when I'm alright.
Because it's an array, if you're touching it there.
Who are you? Who are you? Oh, where do you live? Point it out. Oh, if you get your name, I need to find out first of all who's the first wavelength. Oh, you're the yeah. It's the actual deal.
It's the red herring.
That's what they say.
Technical questions about the table.
You're Ed Hill, mate. Look, listen, that is you there. That's you there. Yeah, that's you, Don. Yeah, that's me there. Oh, look at that! There you go. Yeah. The fingernails touching. They used to pen. Ah, now let's see if we get it first. first time. Think about it last year. So where are you?
Are you in exactly the same spot?
So that's Nottingham. That's not you. And that'd be Simon. Is that be Simon across Spurs Derby? That'd be Derby next year. You don't exist, Caroline. Sorry. Hey, see what it feels like now. You've maximised it. How do we get the ring?
There's more than one to me on the left and right hand.
So then you do. That one there. You could have one I can't do it. No, that's me. That's me. Oh, hang on. It is select. Where's the left and right arrows then? They're back, aren't they? That's a back.
Yeah, you're not here, Caroline.
We're going to find you again in the middle of that. So we go to Jill, and then get there. Then you want to go Ian. It would be Bournemouth, but he's at Southampton. Oh, it is. It is. I like it. It's like A Jill to B. You click in where it says B.
You need the furthest away.
Now you're being Ian. Well, Ian's got to be.
We can work it backwards, it doesn't matter.
So the software will do that for you. So it doesn't actually matter if you put them in any order. What it will do is work out the optimum route and the optimum distance in time.
Oh, do you?
Norway, will it? Like
You see what it does with Ian? I know it's picked Ian up. Wherever Ian is. How far is that? I know, I'm not sure that's
That says start and Jill, finish and Jill. That says start and finish and Jill.
then click get your directions on it.
Oh, I see. So in B.
Oh, that's, yeah, so that's like this. So actually, we need to take that out.
Yeah.
Jill and Jill.
No, take Ian.
You don't need that.
You've got to start and Jill.
No, because then you just change the route, don't you? So you go around them all, the software will know. You're one of these ones that don't do that.
Drop that in.
Yeah. And then you go. I'm going to tap it twice. Keep you in the loop. I was joking, you know. And you get that register. No, not even past
Okay, keep going, guys. I'm just going to talk over you whilst you're continuing. I've noticed that there are different groups working at really quite different paces, which I guess is a reflection of different group dynamics working together. But we're getting there. We've got some routes popping up on the maps. I've had a few questions from some of you sort of saying, oh, well, how do I find the next closest one? Well, that's not the idea. The idea is the software will do that for you. So it doesn't matter which order you put them in, because the software will do that for you. It'll show you the most efficient route, which is the whole point in using the GIS. One of the really good features about this room, I don't know, I'll let you carry on for another few more minutes. Oh, you've done it. Lovely. Great.
There's still just a single line to you put back. It's not to be yet. Okay, that's fine. What the difference now if you would do that and say, well, I'm going to be able to what happens if the round's closed? So yeah, you can just take to get the angle. It's difficult, yeah. Because you do it like that. How do they work it off the maps? So that's what that's the bit. At the moment, we haven't got that direct that's fine. When you said initially, that's what I was saying. They get the information in the tablet box. Are these screens LED maps? I think it says it.
Not whilst they're working. You tell them to go right. When they get ready, that's what I'm going to do with
It's the LED.
Okay, guys, if we just stop what you're doing for 2 seconds. Now's a good time just to stop. Have a look at the other screens around the room to see where the other groups have got up to. So the idea of this exercise was, first of all, to get you collaborating and discussing different things in your group, to introduce you to a new software you might not have used, and to get an idea of how we use these tables in this room. Now, one of the things which I find really valuable is the fact that you do have a screen around the room for every table. So in this exercise, of course, every map that's produced will be unique, will be different. We don't have the same attendees on every other table. So you can start to get you guys even to start discussing how you formed these groups. So the green table here, we've got attendees sort of in the southern half of the country, not so spread out. We've got a table over here, the orange table. We've got a good range of attendees from all over, including Scotland, Midlands, and Southern England, right? So we could start to discuss those sorts of outputs. The final thing I would get my students to do, which I'm not going to ask you to do, is to then think about how you would go about publishing this map. So if you wanted to publish this either as an online map or as in a journal, you've got a few decisions to make. What kind of symbols do you want to use? How big do they need to be? What base map do you want? Do you want a satellite image, or do you want an actual road map of the UK? Do you want to do what the black table here have done and actually include a real-time transport and traffic report? And all these decisions that the students are going to have to make, they will think about and as a small group, and then I'll get them to show their map to the rest of the class, and they will be defending their decisions, defending their choices. And every single map will be unique, and every single group will have reasons for why they've chosen those particular things. And that, as a collaboration exercise, is really one of the key valuable tools for this room. I'll take some questions from you guys about this exercise, or how I use it for my teaching.
Not necessarily about this exercise, but obviously it's taken some time to get used to the technology. Do you have a sort of induction session just for people just to be able to play and get an idea of how it all works, and then make the teaching and learning session more effective?
So with my students, I'd set them a very simple task. I might set them something like this, but of course they would have already been fairly used to the software. I kind of hoped that the jigsaw puzzle task would have got you used to it a bit quicker, but I got the idea that actually setting you a task, you start then noticing some of the sensitivities of the tables, but once the students have got over that, they appreciate that, you understand it, then you get on with it, and it's a pretty steep learning curve. So I don't give them any training, I just give them a bit of a pep talk at the beginning, introducing them to the software, telling them what they can expect, what the constraints are, what the advantages are, and they surprise me. They just get on with it.
Were you using this type of software in just a normal cluster or lab before you then got these tables? So you were aware of the software beforehand, or did it come after?
Yeah, so I teach mapping and GIS to my students in a computer lab. They get a computer each, and they work through a handout, and they would either accelerate through with no problems, or they would get stuck and sort of stumble along. And I still teach that for the majority of the course, but at certain points in the course we get together on these tables, and quite quickly you have the good students just pulling along the slower students, and then the good students are explaining to the other students how to do it, and they're actually getting a lot from the exercise as well. So just like you've done there, to produce that map for each table, it's actually quite amazing how the different pace of the different tables. Some of you have done really well, like the black table here have pretty much finished, I think. Some of you I won't pick out. Yeah, so EastEnders over there. So no, that's definitely one of the benefits. So it's like it doesn't replace the traditional sitting on a computer and working through it individually, but there are added benefits from getting the students to work together. Well, yeah, that's a good question. I guess you've got to be clever with the assessment and the tasks that you set. So, I mean, with the task I set you today, you wouldn't have completed that if you just sat there quietly, because you wouldn't be on the map unless somebody knew who you were and where you were from. They would be able to put you on the map for you. But yeah, that's a good point. You would have to be clever in the task that you would set, and I tend to go around the room. I definitely wouldn't use the room with a class size like this. It's usually 4 or 5 around a table, and it's much more manageable. Yeah, that's good. That's a really good point.
How do you choose your groups?
Students are self-selecting normally. Yeah.
University judge its return on the quite considerable investment of this room.
Okay. I get past the microphone at that point, that's great. So this room was part of an investment when we built the forum, and it was the 3 rooms here. So we've got this lab, Lab 2, we've got Lab 1 next door, which is a Harvard-style lecture theatre with X2 touch screen Dell laptops. And above the room we have this technology lab, which is used for teaching purposes, and we can use that to actually work with staff, and we can do teaching observations in real time when someone's in here working. We can watch teaching sessions and students doing self-led learning. So in terms of the change to our curriculum, we've had an impact in the way we're teaching. We've had a very large change across every discipline. We've got academics in here working on the tables. It's available for students outside of formal teaching time. So the room itself is expensive. It's about £250,000 for the 3 rooms we've got here, plus all the kit, plus the fit out, plus the technology, the screens, the lectern PCs, video conferencing, Echo 360. But actually, in terms of the change it has to your curriculum and the change it has to the pedagogy, it's quite important to actually look at it in terms of return on investment on the teaching practice. And we are able to move away from lecture format. So I'm not standing at the front of the session today. I can walk anywhere I want to and I can talk to you. You've been standing up, you've been sitting down, the noise level's been high. And we've actually changed our teaching style significantly. So return on investment's a difficult one to actually say it is X, but the intrinsic value of it is very large. So we have large-scale curriculum change and pedagogy being developed around activities, problem-based learning, student-led learning, and we've got lots of different changes.
Did you pay your faculty a stipend to learn this new way of teaching?
No, we didn't. So no.
So you had your early adopters jump
Yeah.
on that.
So Damien's one of our early adopters we've worked with. We've worked with numbers of staff. We identify through each of the disciplines to actually identify champions, if you want to. So we have at least 33 champions now, 1 for each of our disciplines. And they, in many ways, have led the development of the room. We manage this room in a very different way than we do to other learning spaces. It's not, at the moment, centrally bookable. So you need to work through my team to actually have a discussion before you think I'm going to come and teach here, to think about your teaching style, look at your activities, look at the development of your curriculum, look at how you're actually going to engage the students. It's incredibly difficult to come in here and just teach, not knowing what you're doing. You know, very, very difficult situation. So that's the way we manage it. We have an incredibly good take-up now from staff. We're looking at this through the timetable build, and we'll identify the new staff who want to work with us, and we'll help them develop their activities. We don't often have academics that will teach their entire terms teaching in here. We'll work with them to identify the sessions that start to work. So it's a bit different.
How did you formalise the business case not knowing how you were going to use this technology?
It's a really good one. So our business case was around wanting to have some cutting-edge, new and very different teaching spaces. And this is what we've come through. And that was developed through conversations with our academic staff. We had a large academic-led steering group as part of the development of the forum, and we looked at best practice from around the world. We talked to experts, we talked to people like Gartner. We did this room probably 5 years ago now. We started planning this room. The technology didn't exist, so we actually developed at the time with a number of companies to get these tables. If you look at the marketplace now, this type of table is available on the marketplace. So every stage of it, we had to have very good informed judgment choices, but we linked that very carefully back to the academic need and the use of technology within the curriculum.
So the project timeline was how long?
The project timeline was the time that the building was going on. So I think this was a 2.5-year build for the forum. So we had a 2.5-year window to plan what we were going to do, go out to tender for the tables, develop the software that we had initially, and we've developed that now onto Windows 8, and we put all of that in place.
What's your refresh life cycle? So most universities build these spaces, and in 5 years' time, they rip it out. So what are you planning to do next?
For this space, so the tables are completely updatable. So we can replace every element on that table. We can replace the touch array, the glass, the screens, the computer, the networking. So we've built them from the beginning with the ability to upgrade the technology in the table so we can keep up to pace. I'm looking at Jill, actually, because I think is it a 5-year cycle? Yeah. Yeah, so it's a sort of a 5-year cycle for these rooms. But the tables are fully upgradable, as is everything else in here. So everything's off the shelf. It's relatively standard. Yes.
And the technology here is software. So do you have applications?
We did when we first had them, and we have developed a piece of software we've now moved away from, which was a very bespoke graphical user interface that allowed multi-touch working. It allowed 4 different applications to be used at one time, so you could split the table into quarters. Actually, what we found is that for both staff and students, they actually want to come in and find something that's relatively like the technology they're used to using. So we've now moved away from that software. We've retired that. We've put Windows 8 on. We have a relatively standard cluster PC image with the software that you find on the teaching computers or cluster computers across the university. But we are looking with a number of academic staff about bespoke applications we could develop. So the visual user environment software for the medical school is something we have been looking at, whether we can develop that further and make it more bespoke for these tables. But as it is, no, we don't put a lot of development time in. We've tried to keep things as relatively cost effective as we can to make it efficient and make it cost affordable to work.
How do you measure the value of the room?
So value in terms of teaching or value in terms of cost?
That's a bit of the question.
Okay.
What are you considering?
So the value of this room is about our student experience, and the students that come into this room have an experience which is unlike anything else in this university in terms of the technology they're using and the way they're being taught. We would measure that through our end of module evaluations. We use a system called MACE to do that, and we'd ask questions about it through MACE. We've measured it through the success of our academic winning the Most Innovative Teacher Award this year for the use of the tables. We'd also work focus groups with our students, and we have an academic-led management group who sort of oversee this room, which is slightly unlike some of our other learning spaces. So they would actually be our early adopters. I think Damien's on that group, and they will actually start to look at how we take this further. They'll look at the feedback we have, they'll ask their students, they'll ask other academic students, and we'll actually look at the value that we're getting back that way. Slightly different from a normal learning space.
Is that just because it's different from everywhere else that it's being perceived?
It is partly. We're looking at putting this back onto the mainstream room booking system, so it will become a centrally bookable room. We're now at the point where we probably do have critical mass of academics who know what they want to do in here. The interesting thing is, and I think we sort of touched on this when Damien was talking, is that students just walk in this room and they use the system. We don't need to come in and give them any type of training to use it, and you need to think slightly outside the box there. Actually, students will be quite happy with touch environments. They all have a phone, a touch environment. They've possibly got iPads, touch tablets. For them, this is just another extension of that technology. Student feedback's been really positive. I don't know whether, Alex, you've got any other, from the Guild point of view, but the student feedback we get is really positive. Students really like the ability to work in groups in here. It's a very, very different way of teaching with computers. We're not just sitting in a lab and looking at a single computer. Students have to challenge themselves to work here, but the feedback has been really positive. What we have found is students are the first people to criticise something when it doesn't work. So if something does break, we know immediately and we can come in and fix that. So, yes.
What would you do differently if you were putting this together today?
There you go, Rob.
From my point of view, I think I mentioned it on the blue table, we would select different technology. I think the capacitive touch that you've got on your iPhones and everything now would be better. I would use these as wall-mounted ones, such as interactive smartboards. I wasn't around for the design or anything, so I'm not too sure. You can't blame me on this one. Again, just a lot more interconnectivity as well, having the tables. You know, if Blue Sky thinking, I love it, Rich and I sit on the E-League group, which is the forward-thinking group. And we, you know, everything, tables talking to each other, having the lectern display onto the actual tables, mobile technology talking, you know. I've said it before to a few people that came in earlier, but if I could just put my phone on the screen, all my photos are sucked up onto the big screen and I could edit them live, put them back onto my phone, that would be amazing. And we're always thinking that way in advance as well. So sky's the limit, I see, with this room, but money has its limits, unfortunately, as it does.
But you prefer the actual smart boards in the future rather than the table?
I think we'd go for both. I think we'd have interactive on the walls and interactive on the side. And then that limits us, you know, you could be on the table doing something, I could be up on that, manipulating as well. And again, it just furthers that collaboration of having it, or maybe even having it linked to phones. So, you know, if Padlet, you were using Padlet on the table, I could be using it over here on my phone or anything like that. So, yeah. It is, and unfortunately, I think it's the lighting. We have blinds on this one, and we've got blinds on that one. And again, yeah, I think we're definitely looking to lighting. We've had guys come in and look at the lighting who were outside, just came in to look at the tables, and they said it's just a simple glare thing. If we change the bulbs, we'd eliminate it. So again, next time, we know. Hello? Yep, sure. As long as it's not booked for teaching, the room is open open from 8 till 8 in the standard teaching day. We've had students walk in on teaching and just come in and kind of sit down, and the academics come across them and like, are you actually part of my group? And had to shoo them out. But if they're welcome to stay if they want to learn on that part. After that, the forum's 24-hour, the room's 24-hour. They can swipe in on their cards, but obviously, if anything does go wrong, we've got their details and we know who's been in the room. Any other questions? I think that's... Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think in terms of scale, it's a difficult question given the cost of buying the technology and also the challenge of changing a teaching space that may be used in a variety of different ways into a room such as this. I think we've been very lucky because we did this through a new build. We haven't had to retire a teaching space, strip it out and actually come in and build it. So I think those are the challenges you have. I think lessons we've learned are around having tables like this in one space. We have this room capacity of around 60. I think we've got 63 or 67 in here today, something like that. And in reality, for teaching, that's probably too many. So we try and look at slightly smaller groups. We have had more students in here before. We've done open days and we've had schools in. And it gets very hot in here. You've got lots of people. Also, you might have noticed walking around the room can become a bit more challenging. I think those are things that you need to think about. We would probably now start to think about putting this technology into our colleges, so actually distribute the tables around, give colleges access to them so they can use them in their own teaching areas, maybe slightly less in a room, possibly into student spaces as well.
So do you have any wheelchair users that use the room, and do they find it easy to get around?
That's a good question. No, I don't think we have.
No, don't think we do at the moment. But say the tables have been designed for height adjustability. We can move the furniture around, you can adjust things. So in theory, it should be fully accessible in here. So I think that's it. Well, if you have any other questions, you can contact myself or Rob or Damien. If you want to have a play on the tables, feel free to play on them as the evening goes on. I hope you enjoyed this today. It's a slightly different session. We didn't really want to stand up and talk to you. We wanted you to experience what it's like to actually learn in here, be a student, to play with the technology. And hopefully you go away today knowing a lot more about what could be possible in a very alternate and different type of teaching space.
Thank you very much, Matt and Damien. There's a couple of little items here. Don't worry, Alex, you'll get yours, but you haven't worked yet. One thing I would say is, having felt the weight of them this morning, is I wouldn't take them anywhere near the tables, gentlemen. But thank you very much. A little token of our appreciation. Thank you.